Welcome, everyone, to the Northeast Indiana Basketball Summit. I'm your host, Ben Smith, joined by my co-host, Jeff Metzger. Before introducing our guest, we want to thank Feel for the Game for providing the platform to have all these presentations live and available for replay. You can check out all our resources over at feelforthegame.com. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our guest, Ronnie Hamilton, assistant coach, Ole Miss. Coach Hamilton graduated from Duke in 2002 with a bachelor's degree in political science and history. While there, he was a four-year letterman as a defensive back on the football team. In 2005, he graduated from UNC Pembroke with a master's in physical education with a concentration in sport administration. He served as a graduate assistant and recruiting coordinator. From 2005 to 2018, he was an assistant coach at Charleston State. They recorded an overall record of 70-23. In the 2006 season, they made the Elite Eight with a record of 27-7. From 2008 to 2010, he was an assistant coach at the Citadel, where they accumulated 36 wins, including a school record tying 20 wins in the 2008-2009 season. While there, he developed several mid-major All-Americans, including Demetrius Nelson, John Brown, Michael Grossell, and Cameron Wells. From there, he spent 2 years at Tulane, where he helped recruit two all-conference players, Ricky Warrant and Josh Davis. 2013 to 2014, he was an assistant at Houston, where he worked closely with all-conference guard Joseph Young and Conference USA Freshman of the Year Daniel House, the first for the program. From 2015 to 2018, he was an assistant at Middle Tennessee. They won 3 straight Conference USA championships. And in consecutive years, they scored NCAA tournament upsets. 2016, beating second seed Michigan State. 2017, they beat fifth seeded Minnesota. In 2016, they also won a school record 31 games. In 2019, he became an assistant at Ole Miss, where he mentored all-conference guards Breon Tyree, and Terrence Davis. With his focus on defense, Devontae Shuler and Terrence Davis were the first duo to record at least 54 steals each in the same season. They made the NCAA tournament for the first time in 4 seasons with a 20-13 overall record and 10-8 in the SEC, despite being picked to finish last. As a recruiter, Ole Miss 2019 class ranked in the top 20 nationally. Before we get to the topic, tell me a little bit about those experiences, Coach, as I unmute you here. All right.
Okay. Let me see. Can you see me now?
I can see you, Coach.
Okay, good. I appreciate it again. Thanks for the intro and man, glad to be on with you guys. It's an honor to be able to just share some things about our program here at Ole Miss and a little bit about my coaching kind of career and path. And as you mentioned, you kind of went through a lot of the places that I've been. I've been real fortunate. This is my 18th year going on now, coaching in college basketball, and been a lot of places across the Southeast with some great head coaches. And every one of those places that I've been, I've learned and taken something from each coach in each place that's kind of helped shape me as a basketball coach and allowed me to grow in this profession. And so now here at Ole Miss, great league, the SEC, it's just, like I said, we've been here going on our 3rd year now. It's been a tremendous opportunity and tremendous challenge. It's a tremendous league with great coaches and great players. And we've tried to quickly build a foundation here so we can have long-term success. And just excited again about having an opportunity to share with you guys today a little bit about, what makes our program go and the things that we value as a team and as a program here at Ole Miss.
Awesome. If you have a screen share, we'll get that set up for you, and then we'll get rolling.
Okay, good. And I'll go ahead and jump right into it. And again, if you guys have questions along the way, please feel free to stop me at any point in time and ask as we get towards the end or at the very end. Definitely take any questions as you see it all to ask that anybody may have about overall just the entire presentation. As Ben said, what I wanted to do today was really talk about kind of our defensive shell and our defensive principles that we really talk about a lot, the things that we as a staff and as a program hope to be our core values from the defensive end. It's one of the things our head coach, Kermit Davis, who I've been with now going on 7 years, is a thing that he wants to take most pride in as far as how we guard, being able to stop other teams, and really kind of be the reason why we have, hopefully have the success that we want to have every single year. So I'm going to jump in right here and go right into to our, let me see here. Share screen. I'm going to get into, give me 1 second here as I get into, well, I'll go in here right here first, and I'll have some film at the end as well. Can everybody see this right here?
I can see it. I assume everybody else can.
Okay, perfect.
Guess I shouldn't have.
No, you're fine. Okay. And so just, as far as just defensive shell principles, and I know most coaches, we have shell drills and we'll do those things as we start putting our defensive schemes. But we kind of view defensive shell and our drills that we do is like our ABCs. It's the foundation of what we do defensively. It's kind of the beginning of what we'll do in terms of how we're going to guard, the actions that we may see over the course of a season. So really what I want to do is just kind of go through it with you in that token, like, our A's and B's and C's, and keep it simple and just kind of go through it and some of our thought process as a staff that we implement every single year. And so on that note, we feel like with our shell principles and our drills, it gives us and allows us to have a plan, okay, on how we're going to guard. And whether it's back screens, whether it's down screens, whether it's staggers, we have a plan that we talk about with our guys and we talk about as a staff, even before we ever get our team assembled, usually in the summers when we would start, we have a plan. And through that plan, it really allows us from there to have an exact idea when we start getting into the season of what we want to do as far as guarding and from a defensive standpoint, the values and principles that we want to implement for that particular team. The other thing that from a defensive standpoint and shell standpoint and principles of what we talk about within all that is that it allows us to keep our guys accountable. One thing that we really, really stress and we really emphasize, even off the court, whether guys are in the classroom, whether it be a weight room, is our guys being accountable for their actions. And so inside of that, as far as just on the court, from a defensive shell standpoint, when we start putting in our drills and our shell principles, then it allows us to hold our guys accountable in terms of how we're guarding, what we're doing on the floor, and then we can also in games now know who's responsible for this when we do have breakdowns. So it's something that's kind of synonymous with our program as a whole, and something within the defensive shell drills that we'll do. And I'll share a lot of those with you as we go through this. But it allows our guys to be accountable in terms of what we believe in, what we teach, and what we're implementing. And then from there, we get to have assessment. Okay, we get to have an idea of what's working. We'll start in the summer, usually around June. We get our guys back. Sometimes we may have one or two guys that don't get here until July. But when we usually get our whole team here at some point in the summer, and we start doing some of our defensive shell drills and start going over our defensive principles. Once we start put those in, and now we can watch film and we can break it down. now we can have a plan. We can keep guys accountable, but now we can assess what we may be good at and what we may not be good at as we go through it. And so, for an example, we've had teams when we were at Middle Tennessee State that we were really, really athletic. Our five had great feet. He could go guard perimeter guys. So as we would do our drills, and we have the same drills that we have for years, but within doing that and seeing it and putting it in, we could figure out and realize that we could be a team that could switch 1 through 5 with that particular team or with those particular guys that play that position. Here, at Ole Miss, our fives hadn't quite been able to necessarily be able to guard the quicker guards that we'll see in this league right now as far as personnel base. So as we're doing it, as we implement it, it gives us a time to assess our team. We've even been in a scenario where we'll go through to our preseason and even into where it'll be the summer and we get into the fall and we're doing all of our drills. We've got a plan. We're holding guys accountable. And then through assessing our team, realize, we may guard ball screens. We may have a plan to guard ball screens this way. With this particular group, we may need to adjust in some of our personnel. So that's some of the things just from a principle standpoint that we go through as we start the season, as we go through, start implementing those things with our team. The B part of it would be as we go through it, the thing that we love about it is it gives you a base, and so again, I know a lot of people and staffs and programs are doing some form of defensive shell drills. And, same with us. We're trying to have a base of, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to guard certain actions, and then put that into our practices so that there's a foundation there where guys have an idea of exactly what we expect every single time. And, we try to get as many reps as possible so that eventually what happens is guys, it becomes where they don't have to think. It becomes more instinct. But we have a base. We have a plan. We can hold guys accountable. We can assess it. But we have a base, and it goes right into the building block part. So once you have that foundation, once you have that base, then you can build on those things as you go. And so we'll go into like I mentioned before, we'll go into the preseason with our basic drills as far as defensive shell drills, our fundamental things that we teach and we implement, and that we want us to be who we are in terms of our identity. And then, we spend a lot of time in the preseason, again, doing those things daily. So from whether we're starting early September, late August, when usually our guys get back, all the way through the preseason until the season starts. We're doing that constantly every single day to create that foundation, to create that base. And then as we get into the season, we hope, like I said, it becomes instinct. And then we may get into the season and we may not be doing it as much because now we're in the scouting, we're in the games. And then all of a sudden we may have a 2 or 3 stretch where we're not guarding as well as we want to, or we need to, or we should be able to. And then we can go back to the basics, the base, and then we can build on that. And even if it's to where we see something, usually we've done all the drills that we have an idea and a plan to guard any action we may see, but there may be something just that we need to tweak or add to it, certain team is doing, and then we can build on that with the building block part of it. And the other thing is just to break down. We really value the teaching aspect of really being specific in what we teach our guys. And so when we formulate our plan and we're holding guys accountable and we have a base and we're building on that, the breakdown part of it is really, really, really critical. And as you're doing your drills, to be able to really teach and show guys exactly what you expect. So we break it down from a closeout standpoint to stance standpoint to position off the ball, and then obviously how we would guard in certain actions. So that's the piece where, breaking it down and really getting specific, and then again holding guys accountable has helped us, be a really consistent and really good defensive team. Has been one of the principal things that's allowed us to be pretty good on a year-to-year basis from a defensive standpoint. And so you go from there. The other thing is from a communication standpoint. We're really, really big on the communication piece. And so in all our drills, but especially defensively, that's a principle and a thing that we value a ton. And the thing that Coach Davis is big on, and our staff, is that we want all our guys to speak the same language. And so from a defensive standpoint, whether we're guarding, how we're guarding a particular action, what you may be doing if you're guarding, if your guy's setting the screen, those are communicated. Those terms and that terminology becomes consistent, so that again we talk the same language. We even have a mural in our locker room, and it'll have on all the sayings that we say as a team. And some of these are offense, but like a lot of those are defense as well. And we start right there with our defensive shell work, that they see it every day. And you get to where, again, like, your language becomes who you are. And that's a huge thing for us. So as you're teaching it and you're doing your shell drills, or you're implementing your defensive system, the communication part, guys all being on the same page, I think is really, really, really important. And then the other thing is just with the plan, the base, and then we can build from it, and we hold guys accountable. We're communicating the same way. I think with it comes a lot of confidence. We want to be confident in what we're teaching. So again, that's part of all the things I mentioned before in terms of having a plan and having an idea of what we're going to do. But then also what we found is when you do those things and you can teach it and you can break it down and be really specific, it gives guys confidence. And I kind of equate it to like maybe even studying for a test. If you give, a student all the answers on the test before he takes it, he gets in, and once he takes that test, then he's going to be totally confident. And so it's kind of been our thought process in terms of why we practice defensive shell work every day, the way we implement it, the way we teach it, the concepts, the communication part. We want our guys to where in the game, it's like giving them the answers to the test. They're confident that we can guard anything that we may see, whether we've gone over it in the scouting report or teams have done something totally different than we would have expected. And truly, that's kind of I think a tale of a great defensive team is maybe sometimes in high school you don't get the benefit of maybe get a chance to scout as much or seeing teams beforehand. In college, we do get that luxury, but at the same time, there's some things you may not be able to prepare for. You have a one-day turnaround, or teams may throw something at you that they put in new right before you. And if you have a principle of how you're guarding, that you're working on your shell work and your defensive things, those guys get confidence. So whatever they may see in the course of a game, they know how to guard, and then they're communicating that all the same. It's amazing. We'll get in games, and within the first 5 minutes of immediate timeout, obviously, like I said, we're scouting, we're doing those things, but the guys will come back, hey, man, you just on that back screen, make sure you want him out. I got to show you on the help. I got to want him out. And so as they talk the language, they're confident, they can coach each other. And that's been huge for us. It's been a huge factor in us, being a really, really sound defensive team, for several years. And the other thing is, with our defensive shell work and our principles, is the conditioning piece. One thing we don't really do as a program is do a lot of track work. And coach is not a big believer in getting out there doing 8-200s and 6-400s and doing football fields and those things. What we try to do a lot of is use our defensive shell and in practice as a whole as our conditioning. And so one of the things you'll see here in a second on the edit on some of these clips is that we talk about just closeouts all the time. High hand closeout is kind of the first piece of the breakdown within our shell work. And it's something that we chart and practice every day. And in doing so, those guys have to do that. They do have to do it consistently, but they also have to do it at full speed every time. So even when we're in our preseason stuff, as part of defensive shell work, our strength coach was like, so we have limited hours. We may go, we may have 2 hours. I guess it's changed now, 4 hours in the summer and leading up into official practice where we can do on the court stuff. But to kind of still do defensive shell work, to still get conditioned in, they can get on the court with our strength coach and simulate a closeout drill and use it as conditioning. Or there's things that maybe like how we're going to guard. We even done where, you have an imaginary ball that's kind of rolled up. So you're not out there actually doing actual practice, but it's within the defensive shell work. So it becomes conditioning. And then we get into practice and we get in the game, or we get into practice. And we do a lot of it in the half court because we really want to teach and break it down, like I mentioned. But then also we will at times go from a defensive shell drill or 4-on-4 to a transition defensive drill. So then that part of it becomes conditioned. We'll go some defensive shell work into 4-on-0, just secondary offense. And so again, it gives us conditioning, and we love the fact that we can do it all to where we don't have to necessarily go out and do 200s and 400s and do track work. We're big on being basketball specific, and our defensive shell drill has allowed us to really do that. So what I wanted to do is go through and show you some of the things that we do, and then kind of how we break it down, the plan that we talk about, how we hold guys accountable, give you the base, and kind of walk you through some of the things that's been a core of what we do defensively and how we do our shells with our teams every year. I'm gonna stop sharing right here for a second. Any questions at the moment?
I don't think we have any questions.
Okay.
Just make sure you hit the optimize video, I guess, or whatever. You know what you're doing.
Yeah. Hold on. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to get to some film and let me see here. Okay. Hold on 1 second. All right. I'm gonna jump back in here and share it, and then we'll get a chance to really do it. All right. Should be good there. Everybody kind of can everybody see that now?
Looks good to me.
Okay. Trying to take the sound off so you guys don't have to hear. There we go. Okay. So here would be our basic shell, how we would normally start it. We like to go 4-on-4. We will go some 2-on-2 and some 3-on-3, but the core of what we like to do is 4-on-4 shell. And we usually start it, and we tell our guys have all 4 guys 2 feet in the paint. So you can see right now all these guys, and we usually will start it with guys having live feet. The offense will be doing. We'll have a specific thing that they're doing in that particular time. And what you'll see right here is what we call change rotation defensive shell work. And this is kind of like the first thing we would probably do. And from the offensive standpoint, it simply means when that ball goes, and so we'll have let me back up. So this coach right here, we have a coach that would start the drill. These guys have 2 feet in the paint with live feet. When the ball is passed out from the coach, they will close out and get into their defensive positions that we've broken down and talked about. And then when we say change rotation, simply means this. Offensively, if the ball is here, for example, and the ball guard, we would call these 2 spots right here guard spots. These 2 spots here would be called forward spots. Free throw line extended, these would be lane line extended. And so the rule would be in this particular change rotation defensive shell drill, the ball went from guard to forward. You would just try to speed cut, basket cut. You try to cut across the defender's face, and then you would go all the way through and go to the bottom, empty out to the opposite, basically forward spot, and then everybody else would rotate over. You'll see it here in a second. And then if the ball went guard to guard, so if the ball is here and it's passed here, then what would happen would be a single pin down screen, and we would defend that. And so what we're teaching here is Number one, closing out, being off to the ball in position relative to the basketball. And then if the ball is passed here, obviously jumping to the ball, staying between the ball and the basket. When it goes guard to guard on the pin down screen, we would be level to the screen, and the guy that would be coming off, defending the guy coming off the screen, we would teach in this particular drill to go through the hole, shoot his hand through the hole, be there one pass away in a denial position, and then we play from there. Normally what we would do, again, once we would start, you would have to finish the drill with a defensive stop. And Coach May, and this is where we can kind of, like I said, building blocks earlier, we can just go all the way through to where they just offense just play. We'll do it for a series of times, and then the offense may just play on their own. We get a defense rebound, next group is up, or Coach Davis may say, hey, we'll finish it. When I say live, we may finish it with a ball screen, and then we get an opportunity to defend ball screens depending upon where that ball screen is located and how we're guarding at that particular time. So it would look just like this. We'd have live feet. I'm trying to cut this down. I'm sorry. I thought I could. We have live feet. Here it is. And so you see the closeout. Every time we close out, we have our guys, we talk about high hand closeout. So I went back to the conditioning part. Like this would be something that maybe our strength coach could do, just having guys go from closeout here. And so again, that's the conditioning piece that all ties into our defensive shell work and our defensive principles. But we be off the ball with a hand in the passing lane here, be ready to help in any penetration. We won't come off corner threes, but we would call this fake and retreat. Obviously here, we talk about not getting split from the top. So if he was to drive with his left hand, we would fake and retreat, help, and then close back out on the pass. But you'll see these guys get off the ball, but we're high hand close out every single time, and then we're going from there. So pass is made. You see the defender right here jumps to the ball. And we talk about, if he does back cut you right here, we talk about snapping your head. So you see him already kind of knowing what's going to happen. Because again, it becomes where becomes instinct, we hope. But in this case, he's snapping his head, and he'll try to deny any back cut pass. And then the guy goes away, he'll be sitting there and help. Right here, it's a single down screen. It really shouldn't be single down screen right here. They should be filling up, but they went ahead and kind of went ahead and set a single. But even in that case, he'd be carrying the screen, be level the screen, and he'd be shooting his hand through, getting through the screen. So again, high hands. You see it. You'll see him. He's here. He sees this guy going away. He's in help right here. It's a 7-footer now. He's out here guarding the perimeter. We want all these guys, whether it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or you 5'10", or you 6'10", to be able to guard all over the floor. It goes guard to guard. It went guard to guard. So now here's a single pin down screen here. He should probably have a little better see ball and man. But our guys here is getting through. Now it went from guard to forward. He jumps to the ball so he doesn't get speed cut. And again, the same thing. High hands. So we would play this. And so as we're talking, you would see all these guys. One thing that we do, and I said this earlier, so we'll have a coach, obviously this is our head coach, myself, and he would, before we would get started, we would say, hey, I've got, for example, I've got KJ, and each coach will be responsible. So we're coaching an individual guy through all that, and the offense already kind of knows what to do. So the breakdown part is huge, and the teaching part obviously is really huge. And so we would keep going. He wouldn't do a good job, so we may have even stopped this drill because he didn't jump to the ball. And again, it goes back to really breaking it down, really holding guys accountable. But right here, he was late. He didn't jump. We probably would not count it as a stop, and they probably have to do it again until they got it fully correct. But we want him to jump into the ball. And then in this case, like I said, the beauty of it is we can kind of actually finish it and now be able to guard a second action or in the clock's action and use our principles and get a rep at that as well. In this case, we're finishing with a side ball screen. We guard ball screens a few different ways. And so in this particular drill, we may be hard hedging, and we would have a guy foot in, foot out, helping if they've got a pick and pop guy. And I'll walk you through that too as well. You try to refuse the screen, and then they eventually get a stop, get a deflection, get a steal. And so again, you'll see everybody's 2 feet in the paint, live feet. This will begin. This is called our change rotation, defensive shell work right here. Just really getting to jump into the ball, guarding down screens, faking and retreating, and obviously we finish everything with a block out, with the defensive rebound to finish the possession. So again, you see the high hands, okay, pass is made, and we're right into the drill. He's shooting his gap, he's shooting his hand through the gap, carrying the screen. I'm sorry, let me go back. Looks like we just are broken down. So right here, so that was change rotation. This right here is what we call shooter screener. I've got this in this. So we've got change rotation where we go guard to forward, we just speed cut, we go opposite, guys fill up to those spots, and then if it goes guard to guard, then we pin down. All right. This is what we would call a shooter screener. So it'll be the next part of our defensive shell work. Here's what happens. We'll have a guard and a big on one side and a guard and a big on the other side. This kid's about a 6'6" guy. For this purpose of this drill, he's the big on this side. All right, we would usually try to match up our defenders the same way. So in this case, he's guarding here, guard's guarding here. This is a 4-man that we play. He's guarding here. When we go shooter screener, the bigs are always screening. So if in this case, when the ball, again, everything's the same, we close out. If he's opposite now, so if he's above the guard, he's screening down. And then we're, again, working on the down screen, same rules apply. Now what happens if the ball gets passed, because he's below and he's always the screener, he's the big on this side, he's setting a flare screen. Now we get to work on guarding a flare screen. Our rule is this on the flare screen. We teach this guy to make a 1, meaning he's going to get right on his outside shoulder. You'll see it, and he's going to go over the top with high hands. The guy that's guarding the flare screens, what we call make a 1. Let me get to it. So again, we would say this right here is he's going to make a 1, meaning he would open up. We get big and wide with his hands. You see that, and then they're guarding it right there. He get on his outside shoulder. Okay, and he would make a 1. He would have to help as deep as he need to not give up a layup. He could always close out back late. So this is what we call shooter screener. Now these guys will get so good offensively, they can go from either passing to here. Now here comes the flare on this side, but they actually go flare screen, re-screen, and so now he's guarding a flare screen. Then he's coming back guarding a single down screen. Through the hole, he's making a 1, and you'll see how we go. He gets back, pretty good job. The same thing. This should be again called shooter screener, defensive shell work right here. We're working on guarding down screens, and we are also working on flare screens. We'll even at times, again, it goes back to the building block part. So we'll even get to a point where now you may catch it, and now we can also work on handoffs. And that's the thing we see a lot sometimes with different teams we play. Handoff, whether it be big handoffs or small big handoffs, and sometimes perimeter-wise we may switch. But if it's a big, we want to just get through the hole, and so we can do that within this same particular defensive shell work. So again, high hands. Now the big is always setting the screen, so now he's below him. He's setting the flare screen. He's going to want him out, like I said, get on his outside shoulder and just want him out with high hands, and he's going to make a 1. Right there. Now we got a pin down on this side. He decides, and these guys kind of can just do it. He could wait for this pin down right here and hit the guard, and then now he's setting a single pin down, or in this case, the big, and this is again just kind of the building block part. He's going to go right into a handoff. Drill is the same. Now we get defensive work against a handoff. So here we are. Now we're through the hole. He actually ended up guarding and pin down on that side. There's the flare. Make a 1, want him out. And we're right back into it. Now again, we got a handoff. He's through the hole. High hands. The flare's action. He's going to want him out. He's going to make a 1. And these guys get to where, again, they have a base. They're confident in what we've taught them. fake and retreat, defensive rebound. Again, you'll see just one more clip. You'll see just the activity. It goes kind of like I talked about the condition. Does a really good job kind of denying the pass right there. Same thing. He's going to want him out. He's going to make a one. Now, again, coach may have said, hey, he may have called live, or they just get he'll tell those guys what he wants to finish it up with. So now we get a chance to do all those different things. We've had a rep at guarding a flare, a pin down, even a handoff, and now we get to guard a middle ball screen. And we would normally guard middle ball screens, but we would shadow. He probably hedged it a little too hard, but we would shadow, and we would, depending on there's not a fifth guy there, but we would tag the guy going away from the guy opposite. The guy that's, he got the ball in his hands going away from. He would tag the long roll guy and close out, on a skip pass. I mean, on a pass reverse back opposite. But we get a rep at it to finish. You'll see him tagging. We get a rep at it to finish the actual defensive shell work. And then the offense kind of can play until they get a shot up, but it forces the defense now. And like I said, all this time the sounds are off, but you've got not only the coaches communicating, players should be communicating, all the defensive terminology that we use, all the way we're guarding. I said before, we guard ball screens a little different depending on where it's at and who may be involved in the ball screens when we get into scouting. But our base, and it goes back, our base is we would hard hedge side ball screens. So this is probably what should be happening is we would hard hedge it. We're getting over the top. These guys would be at the midline. And we would normally have the lowest guy here, what we call foot in, foot out. So he'd be straddling the lane line ready to what we would call fly switch if they were picking and pop and there was nobody below him. Obviously, it was an empty side, a naked side that he could fly switch and take the pop guy if he was a guy that could pick and pop and shoot. And that's just something, again, that we would do within all our defensive shell work. But you would see the hard hedge. He's there anticipating ready, and he would just communicate that call if we did that. That's what should have happened. So he should have been calling fly, fly, fly. Guy who was guarding the ball screen just be sprinting opposite, and we would rotate from there. So you just see the defensive shell work that we do. Now, again, one more time. This is, again, it's the shooter screener. One more time so you can see it. So what we're trying to do, he kind of really hard hedged that middle ball screen. He tagged it and recovered back. And you see these guys faking and retreating, helping. And we're really talking about stance, and obviously we're not perfect, but we're talking about it, and we're charting, and we're assessing, every possession. We have managers that chart if they're, not in the stands, they're not blocking out, they're not communicating. Those are things that we all. So here we go back and we say, okay, the building block part or the assessment part. So these are guys right here. We consider all these guys kind of light guys, even though this guy right here kind of plays mostly the four for us. He's good enough to guard perimeter guys. We've seen that through practices. We've seen it through all of our drill work, our shell work. And so now we'll be in a situation where these guys could switch. So before on the handoffs, they may go through the hole. And in this particular case now, as we building on our defense, you can see them communicating. They're just switching it, and now they're just playing from there. Everything else the same. We're in our same, drill and our same terminology, our same principles, and we're playing. He didn't want to. He stunned it at him, faked and retreat, got back, rotations, close out, finish a possession. So what we're trying to do is we're really just trying, like I said before, trying to everything that we could see in a game, trying to do that in shell work. So again, when our guys get to the game, they're confident in it. If we need to make an adjustment, if it's a scout adjustment, we can make it. But we've got a base and we've got a foundation that we're comfortable in terms of what we're doing on the defensive end all the time. I think this is right here. So we're going to go, this is what we would call defensive shell work, stagger. And so, again, we started normally like this. when we go just our basic defensive shell work, 90% of the time, coach, 2 feet in the paint, live feet. All right, you'll see it, guys, here. So what we'll do in this particular drill, we go stagger, stagger. Okay, so we've had change rotation. We've had shooter, screener. The third one, this would be stagger, stagger. We would start the 2 guards in the forward spots, and we start the 2 bigs in the guard spots. And so we would simply always pass it to a big first, reverse it again, and then we would stagger, and then we would guard how we would guard in that case. And I'll explain that to you. So when we guard staggers, what we do here is we're going to go through the hole on the first one. This guy should be off to the midline so he can see ball and his man. The second one, we're going to one him out. So we go through the hole through the first, one him out. We don't want to go through the hole on both of them here. How we guard, because a lot of teams will try to either L the screen, we call L or fade the screen. And we've got this guy that can really help extend on this second part of the stagger. We want to really want him out and beat him through the screen. And obviously this guy can help on any slips right here. So this is what we would do to, again, work on just guarding staggers in our shell work. So we want him out, go through the hole. And then what we would do is we would go right into just a kind of a middle third stagger into a baseline stagger. And so this would begin the offense. It knows these things, and they can come in and they can guard it. So it'd be the same thing. We would win this one out and go through the hole, and we would treat this like a back screen. So it goes back to our defensive back screen or a back screen coverage or how we guard back screens. We would make a 1. Same thing. He'd have his hand towards his back, get big and wide. So if there was a flex screen, which we would consider a back screen, the rules are the same. And so those guys becomes really instinct, becomes something they're really, really comfortable with. On the second stagger, because we want to go through a hole, we would tell this guy to push him down, try to get him as deep as he could so we wouldn't have room to flare or L, and we play from there. So he goes through the hole, ones him out, and then from there we just play. Now they can get, now again, in this particular time, we've told them go stagger, baseline stagger into a side ball screen. Again, putting the kind of the end on it. So then we get a second work in it, or we get ball screen work in our defensive shell work. And the rules are, again, right now we're hard hedging, as you saw before. He should be put in without communicating. They're going to fly switch, and we're to the midline. We're to the help right here. So you'll see it right there. And then we're playing. Now we just got to be in our shell. This will be our shell. This is how we want to look. Midline, off to the ball, be ready to fake and retreat. Again, we don't come off corner threes. He would just be stunned. Could probably be a little bit here, but we're playing there. Fake and retreat. And we'll play that through till we get a stop. See if we do this one more time here. So again, stagger, stagger. We go here. We go again. We're through the hole. Want him out on the second. He's extending. He should really be here. He got slipped on. That shouldn't happen. Again, not perfect, but that's where we holding those guys accountable. I think this group probably would have had to do it again. I'm almost positive. And now here we're wanting them out and through the hole in the second one. So we get to work on a regular kind of stagger, and we get right into a ball screen action. So again, hard hedge. This guy's in great shape. He's a foot in, foot out. He can communicate, and he would just be talking to his partner, who the other forward is, on what to do out of it. This is a guy who can really pick and pop. He may fly switch. He may feel like he's not a shooter. He can just tell him to stay, and we'll play from there. He gets there. He's faking and retreating. He's in great shape. High hand closeouts, and we play from there. A couple more things we'll do. So now we'll go. So we, like I said, we've got change rotation. We've got shooter screener. We've got stagger, stagger. And then what we'll do then also is we'll go just right into same idea, but we go right into like a pin down. So this would be, we wouldn't start it right here, 4 guys in the paint, but we want another one of our core defensive shell works is we would go just work on coming off a pin down into off of a baseline stagger. And a lot of teams, Kentucky does it a bunch, will just go into what we would call rover action, where they have a guard here and they've got 2 kind of bigs kind of off the block, and the guard can come off either one. and we work on that as well. So this is kind of similar to before the stagger, but just another way to kind of teams can get into it, but then also the variation of just coming up what we would call a rover action. So again, that's the beauty of the defensive shell. If there's things that you see a lot from teams within your conference or your league, you can put that in a shell drill so that you work on it enough in practice. So therefore, again, when you get in the games, when your guys have guarded so many reps that they get really, really good and they get comfortable, and it's not a surprise, and it becomes, like I said, instant. So here we are here. So then the same thing. He all the rules applying right here. Okay, he's running them out. He's running them out, and then he's going to get through his first one and go through the hole in the second one. And then what would happen here is, I'm sorry, we actually just kind of went. A lot of times we may just drive it up here. We don't have this on film, sorry. And so he would make this pass here. He would drive it up. This other forward would stay right here. This guard would get here, and they would play from there. In this case, I think we just ended up, what we did was just went baseline stagger into a middle ball screen. So we like I said, again, it's the building block part of having the core things, and then we add to it as we go. So we get work on all the types of things that we may see in the game. In this particular case, what we ended up doing was going single baseline stagger, middle ball screen. So we go up middle ball screens a few different ways. Our core way is we would just shadow, kind of like you saw before in the earlier clips. We would try to get over the top. We would try to really flat shadow, get level to the screen, try to get this guy to play east-west, not north-south. And then, if the guy's going away from it, we could tag and get back to a skip. He refused it kind of, but we get a rep at it, finish it with a defensive stop. Couple more here. Same thing. So this would just be our pin down, baseline stagger, and now middle ball screen. So we're getting to work at middle ball screen. Guys with hard hedging are a little bit harder, and we'd rather err on the side of hard hedging more so than being soft on the middle ball screen, and they're guarding that way. So now this would be us right here, just guarding, and we would do it. Just a couple more here, you can get an idea. So we would do it. When we finish the possession, a lot of times coach will be waiting till the shot clock is running down. Maybe it's getting under 12, 10, 8 seconds. He may just say live. Guys will just play. And then you got to be able to guard a dribble. You got to be able to fake and retreat. You got to be able to not come off corner threes. Some cases, like you've seen in some of the clips, we may tell those guys when it goes live, 5-man, go sprint ball screen. So now we get work on the side ball screen. We may actually get into it to where it's designed to get to that ball screen. In this case, this would be just our shell work, and we just come out of a box set, and we're immediately going into side ball screen action. So the things that I mentioned earlier, we're guarding it, but we're designing it to get into that. So now we get work on guarding ball screens. We see a lot of ball screens in our league and just in college basketball. So it's something that we do on a daily basis in terms of being ready to guard it in game-like situations. But so we were just starting a box set again. These guys, let these guys get through the hole. And I go back to, like, when we talk about assessment, right? So we get into scouting. There may be times, I know you've seen it probably every time we've gone through the hole, and we're guarding a really good shooter. We may tell, hey, you're not going through the hole. We're not going to allow those guys to have any opportunity to either get hung up on the screen or for them to L a screen, and you're going to want him out every single time. So you're right there on the catch. And so that's the building block part. That's the kind of the assessment part. That's the part we have a plan, but we can also adjust and we can scout. We can use scouting and personnel to kind of drive some of those decisions. But here it is. We just go box set, and then we go right into side ball screen. So here's I am. I could hit any of the two guards that popped out to the wing, and now the big is going to sprint side ball screen. Sometimes we may take this big and he may be hooking, because we have teams that do that as well. So it may be side ball screen, middle hooking that occupy this guy here, maybe having to guard maybe two guys at once in a sense in terms of a pop. or we may just have this guy here wide. We see a lot of times 4 out, 1 in, and now you got to be ready to close out on a long Euro pass. And so we can kind of manipulate that within our shell work, but we get the essence of being able to guard ball screens just in the actual drill itself, and you see that here. So again, we've been a team that sometimes have iced it. So if we were doing that, we could just simply say, you know, depending upon what we want to work on that particular day in that particular shell drill, we could be doing the ice. But in this case, like I said, our core is hard hedging. And you'll see these guys, again, being taught you should be foot in, foot out, communicating whether we're going to fly switch. This guy's in great shape to be able to be at the midline and help on any penetration, not getting split from the top. And then we just go from there. And so in this particular case, we would go and we would try to get multiple reps at guard inside ball screen. So the ball's reversed. Now this opposite big would sprint up. Now he's in ball screen. So you got to go quickly from being here, foot in, foot out, to quickly get into a hard hedge, to quickly get off to the ball, to this opposite big getting quickly to foot in, foot out right here. And we would try to get 2 or 3 of those possessions in one shell drill, one rep to get a lot of work at it. And so you can just see, and again, what you can't hear is the communication part. They should be talking hard heads, or the different terminology that we may use. So again, we've gotten, this is our 3rd rep at guarding it all in one possession of defensive shell work. You see the rotation here. One more time here, where I just defensive shell side ball screen work right here. Again, this was our kind of a box set. Hit either side, right into it. And like I said, you may be guarding ball screens a different way, but you can implement the drill to get the work in based on how you're guarding it. Again, high hands, see it. Good fake and retreat, guarding the ball, finish the possession, help him. And again, every time we're trying to, we even get it last, I guess we may got 3 or 4 in there, right there. He probably should have been there, but he didn't, and he would tell him to stay, and he'd close out to a shooter or get a late contest, and we try to finish everything with a contest and defensive rebound. So those are, our core shell drills. It's kind of like I said, our principles and why we do it, and the way we teach it, and the plan that we have. And it's like I said, it's kind of the ABCs of us defensively. And again, it gives us opportunity to really, as we go through the season, one of the best things, like I said before, is we do it we try to do one of those drills, or even maybe 2 of those drills every day as we lead up into the start of the season. Then when the season starts, we hope that guys now have done it so much through the preseason or through practice that it's instincts. And so we get in games and we start playing. If we have a game or 2 or a couple of days, or we're not guarding the way we expect to guard or we need to guard, we can always go back to the plan, go back to holding the guys accountable, go back to our base, go back to our foundation, and then get that confidence level back up, and so we can be defensively sound and be able to guard the way we need to guard to at this level. So at this time, Ben, if you guys have any questions, I'd love to answer any questions and share anything else, in terms of maybe terminology or how we guard or some other things.
Sure. I'm going to unmute my co-host, Jeff. I think he might have a couple questions for you, but one in the chat was kind of along the lines of, how long is your shell drills? How long do you do each segment? Obviously, if you're going to be facing a certain, tactic or strategy in an upcoming game, you might focus on that particularly, but how long would a typical shell session be, I guess?
Yeah, good question. So we're in a preseason, and we're in practices before the season starts. We normally dedicate about 15 minutes of shell work every day. And so it may be where we go, we may have 3 teams of 4, and we normally carry like 16 guys. So it may even be where we have 4 guys that are all the time offensive guys. And maybe we have walk-ons or some guys that's, toward the latter part of our roster. So they may be where they're the offense every single time. Those other 3 groups of 4 go a possession of whatever particular defensive shell drill we're working on. So let's say shooter screener. And so they get, first group's up, they get a stop, second group's up, they get a stop, third group's up, they get a stop. We may do that, and each team has to get 2 stops. Or they may go 2 stops in a row, change, and we try to do about 15 minutes every single day. It may be where we get one of those drills in, like shooter screener, and then we go to side ball screen. So we may get 2 drills in a day, but the gist of it is that we're trying to get about 15 minutes of work in. It may go over a little bit, just if we, again, we're going to be real detailed in what we're teaching and making sure these guys do it right. So the accountability part, it may go over a little bit, but we're getting about 15 minutes of work in every day. And like I said, we get into practice. We may not do it every day, but surely what happens is, like I mentioned before, we may be playing a team that's a heavy stagger team. So leading up into that practice, we'll go back and do our stagger drill, or we just play a game and we were really, really bad at guarding ball screens in that particular game. And so, coach, hey, we got to get our defensive side ball screen action in, this next practice. And we may spend 15 minutes, but it's normally 15 minutes that we'll spend on every day.
Okay, great. Jeff, did you have something for Coach?
Yeah. So, Coach, I see you love defense, and with defense comes intensity.
Yeah.
And so, with intensity, for your coaching career, you've coached a lot of places. What's the most intense game you've been a part of?
Oh man, sure. That's a great question. I would say probably just because of the stakes of the game. So we were at Middle Tennessee State, and we played Michigan State in the tournament. I want to say it was maybe 2016. I could be off a year, and so we won the conference tournament at Middle Conference USA. We get invited to the NCAA tournament selection show. We're a 15 seed. Michigan State's a 2 seed, and they could have very easily won a national championship that particular year. Had Denzel Valentine. They were really, really good, and obviously Izzo was a tremendous coach. And so we played it in St. Louis, I think, was the regional game, and we got out to a great start, but it was just such and we led the whole entire game, but it was such just an intense game in terms of just as the game went on. It wasn't so much pressure, but you could feel a moment rising as far as just what ended up happening in terms of a huge upset. And they just kept coming, man. They never let up. They never, they made a run to cut it to 1. We'd go back up 6 or 7, and they come back, cut it to 2, and we go back up 7 or 8. And we had a game plan that was a little different than what we had done the whole season. So we kind of threw out the whole shell work in a sense. We decided to switch everything. We worked on it lead up into the game, but it really presented some problems for them. And then they made some adjustments, and then we had to go make some other adjustments. And so just the intensity and the magnitude of the game, that was one of the most intense games. Auburn, we played a double overtime this year that was really intense. So just in this particular season, that game, we were up 20. We lose the game, actually, which was just a tough loss. But, man, just crowd. We had a great, tremendous crowd. I think they were ranked 16th, 17th in the country. We played really, really well for about 30 minutes of the game. They come back, go to overtime, goes to second overtime, just intense, got foul out. And then Kentucky at home this year, we have at their place this year, we have a chance to, with the ball with about 26 seconds or so ago, down 1, and, don't get a great shot to win it, miss it. So those, the league itself, one thing about SEC is a lot of intense games. There's a lot of intense games in Conference USA too, but the crowds obviously, and sometimes the atmosphere and the exposure, brings out a little bit more intensity. But those kind of off the top of my head would be ones that come to mind first.
All right, thank you.
One more question for you, Coach. As far as scouting,
Mhm.
would you say it's more personnel based as opposed to like strategy and tactics because you can incorporate most of the scouting into like your shell drill and stuff?
Yeah. It's a good question. It is a lot of personnel based, but we also try to have an idea or have a idea of thought that, we're going to guard how we guard. We're going to do what we do. And so if there's a guy like this is just a great shooter, I mean, again, so we may go where we're not, getting through the hole on a down screen. There's bigs that we'll play that we may feel like we have a hard time defending those guys one-on-one in the post. And we have a package where we can trap the post. Again, we have some guards that are so good in ball screens that, if they come off of it, they can really, really, really pass it and make all the reads and out of it. So we've at times ice, down some ball screens and try to force them not to use it. But in most cases, it's more strategy. It's more about, okay, we've done our defensive shell work. We know how to guard all these actions. What are they doing the most? Let's be prepared to guard that. What can we do to take it out of them? What can we do to take them out of what they like to do? And that's kind of been our premise the most in terms of the scouting part of it. But there's obviously some personnel times that we have to make some adjustments.
Awesome. We got one more question from a viewer.
Okay.
I think it's at a high school level. It says they have a difficult time with carryover from drill work to going up and down. What suggestions do you have to overcome this issue?
Yeah, that's a good one. So I think I mentioned it before. What we try to do is, and so it's that piece of obviously, you got to get in condition to better play up and down and still be exact in what you're doing. But we try to do a lot of shell work. We try to do a lot of it in the half court so we can really, really break it down and teach it. And so as you saw in those clips, most of that's, stayed in the half court for that reason. Now, I think, when we get into a 5-on-5 and there's also times we have to get in the full court, we do get the benefit of having, several coaches and GAs that can kind of watch it as far as every position and even if we're guarding the action, we can kind of almost assign somebody to be watching that so we don't have the slippage as much. But it's bound to happen. But we hope that just the fact of just, again, all the reps that we do, way we break it down, the plan that we put in place, that we minimize the slippage that you get from going, in just a kind of a controlled drill to a up and down, 5-on-5 full court drill. And then, the thing that we'll do obviously is that's the conditioning part. I think that helps, because as guys get fatigued, then that causes a lot of just, slippage. And so then, the last part of it is we try to watch a lot of film after practice and really kind of assess what guys are not doing as well if we're going up and down. So then we can go back again and kind of not just necessarily reteach it, but just work on it over and over again to what we try to minimize that. But it occurs, and I think, like I said, our philosophy has been to really try to spend a lot of time in the half court to where, again, it becomes instinctive so that even when we start getting up and down, that they still are on point with the things that we're expecting to do, from a defensive standpoint.
Awesome. I think that assigning, players to coach, because most high school staffs will have, 4 or 5 coaches so they can, really focus on the individuals, especially when you translate it. So I think that's all we have. This was amazing, and it'll be up tomorrow for anybody who wants to view it again. And if you need a copy, of course, we'll get that to you as well. But Jeff, did you have anything to wrap up?
Nope, that is all. It was a great presentation. I loved it.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you, guys. And like I said, if I can do anything, I think Ben's got my information, email. Anybody, has a question that comes up afterwards, or you think of anything, or we can do anything for you here at Ole Miss. Obviously, I know we're getting through the pandemic, but if it get back to normal in the fall. Anybody ever wants to come to watch practice, Coach Davis has an open practice policy. No, you guys not too far from us in terms of traveling this way, but man, we anything we can do on our end, and me personally, if anybody, please let me know. And like I said, I've really enjoyed it, and hope you took something from it.